Thank you so much for joining again. And it's interesting because Novoneel is not just an author. He writes romantic thrillers, for which he's very popularly known for, but he's also a scriptwriter. I can't see anything, Novoneel. Hi.
Hi, Latha. Hi, finally,
How are
I'm
you?
visible.
Yes.
Okay. I'm good. How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So all okay with you in Bombay?
Yeah, as so far so good, I would say.
Okay.
Though you might be already knowing the numbers are
Hmm.
increasing and this and that, all that's going on. But as
Yeah.
long as I guess we all are taking care of ourselves, we'll be safe. So yeah, it's just going on.
Okay, good. Yeah, I guess that's the best advice, stay safe, wear a mask, wash your
Yeah,
hands, and so on. So I think that's
yeah,
important. Navneil, firstly,
yeah.
congratulations on all the books that you've written. I mean, that's
Thank you so
great.
much. Thanks,
You
thanks,
you
thanks.
seem to be a romantic thriller specialist. Somebody has a crush on you, I guess. I can
Okay.
see over there.
Okay.
And it's also interesting that you're a script writer, so
Hmm,
it's a
hmm.
very nice space to be in. So firstly, let's talk about your books.
Right.
Why are you so much in love with the romantic thriller genre? What is it about that you
Uh,
enjoy? Hi, Shilpa.
See, the thing
Sorry, in
is,
between I keep saying hi to all these people.
I
Okay.
know, that's fine, that's fine. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we need to tell them that we are also registering that they're there, so that's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. I think, in my head, for me, I just write thrillers, but because I have to sell my books, so I tell that I write romantic thrillers because the moment the word romance comes into it, because 12, 13 years back when I started, thriller was
Oh,
not a thrillers written by Indians in
right.
English was not a very big was not a genre at all that was selling,
Hmm.
and to make a mark to because inherently people used to think thrillers are intelligent, and what would an Indian writer write, and that too in
Hmm.
English. So there were a lot of roadblocks, and most of it was psychological roadblocks that people had in general. And so I
Right.
thought it might as well is better to give them the books that they can consume, and so I started calling them romantic thrillers. Though a lot of my books are
Hmm.
about relationships and stuff, but in
Hmm.
my head it's always that I'm writing thrillers because I need to remind myself that so that I don't fall into the trap of writing a romance book like per se. Though one of my
Yeah,
books,
yeah.
Half Torn Hearts, is a completely romance and relationship books, but otherwise
Hmm.
predominantly I've been writing thrillers.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's how it started basically, this romantic thriller tag and all.
Okay. Somebody there is your biggest fan. But when you wrote the romantic novel, it's interesting. Was it based on any of your own personal experiences or?
It's always based on personal experiences, I guess. You write
Hmm.
romance, or even if you write horror, I guess somewhere it's is something personal is not necessarily the personal thing has to happen with you. Maybe you have
Right.
witnessed something, maybe you have taken it
Hmm.
from somewhere,
Hmm.
but Half Tone Hearts, that novel, which is my only romance or relationship based novel, that is kind of a semi autobiographical. I've taken,
Okay.
and I don't unlike other authors, I don't believe in writing exactly what happened in my life. I always love to fine tune it, because anyway I'm writing fiction, I'm not writing non-fiction. So I
Right.
fine tune it to suit the needs of fiction, to create more drama. But the feelings, the thoughts, the emotions, those were felt by me in that particular book. But even in my thrillers, most of the genres of the character I have either seen or I've picked up or I've just
Hmm.
felt it myself. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's like it's a mix always.
Okay. Okay. So where did you actually grow up?
Multiple places actually.
Okay.
I was born in Silchar, Assam.
Yeah.
Then I spent my early adolescence in Kolkata. Then I went
Okay.
to Lucknow, where
Okay.
my teenage years went by. Then I came back to Kolkata, and then finally, after my college got over, I mean, actually dropped out of college to become a writer. So when
Oh,
I dropped
okay.
out
Yeah.
eventually, yeah. So when I dropped out, I spent a couple of years more in Kolkata, and then I shifted to Mumbai to work and become a screenwriter and become part of this
Yeah.
industry. So yeah.
Right. So have your, the places that you've lived in, has that also kind of influenced your writing?
I think so. I mean, more than writing, I think places, people, customs, cultures, they all influence you as a human being, I guess, you know. And when you are into something creative, be it writing or painting or even music, you know, these things make some kind of a subconscious concoction is always there, you know, and you
Right.
are a result of all those things, if not singularly, but taken together. I'm
Right.
sure those things must have affected me, you know, when especially the Lucknow as a city, because I spent my very conscious years there, you know, as a teenager. I took in a lot of, that's why a lot of people who meet me, they don't, they say that I don't look like a typical Bengali, you know, but then I've never spent that many years, you know, and I'm not good, very fluent with Bangla as a language also. So that's why I don't write in Bangla. Otherwise, I would have, you know, written only in Bangla,
Okay.
not in English. But
Right.
yeah, answering your question, I think it definitely plays a role. If not, I mean, I think writing is just an expression of it. As a human
Right.
being, all of it plays a role somewhere. It shapes up, you know, our subconscious, our conscious mind, and all. So I really think it helped me, and it helped me shape up whatever you know
Right.
the subconscious of mine is.
Okay, okay. You've worked on some web series as well, right? Now, are
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
all based on your books, or only as a scriptwriter?
No, so I have a couple of my books have been adapted. So Black Suits Here
Hmm.
was adapted by Alt, and Stranger Trilogy was adapted by Applause and Rose Audiovisuals into Hello
Hmm.
Mini, which came on MX Player. So
MX.
those are,
Yeah.
yeah, those are based on my books, and
Hmm.
I wrote the screen story for it. So basically, I
Okay.
adapted and wrote the screen story for it, and I did another original series called Rejects on Z5, which was
Hmm.
completely, you know, my and Mr. Goldie Behel's idea. So we just
Hmm.
developed it together and we presented it. But yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag. I mean, some of the original ideas are being developed right now and
Hmm.
will come in as we, you know, go along. This lockdown has
Okay.
anyway pushed a lot of projects.
Yeah. Yeah,
It has
that's
pushed a
true.
lot of projects. Yeah.
But Rejectex also had its second season drop now, right?
Yeah. It released in May,
Yeah.
mid-May.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
released in May. Your last book came out in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, December. Yeah.
December 2019. How do you find time to write your books and do your script writing, what you do otherwise?
Uh, I think if I have to answer that in one word, it's somehow. There's no, there's no, there is no rule to it. There's no, I just don't know. A lot of people ask me, how do you multitask? How do you, you know, write
Uh,
this and that and this? I just don't know. I don't have a structured way of going about a day. You know, I
okay.
don't have a dedicated time that this is the time I'll write. This is the time I'll do my novel. I just go
Hmm.
with my flow and my instinct. If I feel like the one thing that I always follow is I never write my novels with bad energy. When I say bad energy, it means if I'm feeling lazy, you know, if I'm
Okay.
not feeling like writing, I don't write it because I
Hmm.
have more often than not realized whenever I've written with you know all these kind of laziness and it has turned out to be complete trash which I would anyway delete later. So I kind of
Okay.
now I kind of avoid those bad energy days in writing my
Hmm.
novels. But otherwise,
Hmm.
script writing, because I'm a professional, I don't have that privilege of saying no, today I'll not write because you know there are deadlines, and I think the only
Yeah.
people who are meeting deadlines in this lockdown are writers because you
Yeah.
know all the projects are getting written and more written. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I somehow I manage. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any structured plan to it.
Okay, so what are you working on this year?
I just finished my next book.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, just finished my next book and very excited about it. It's a very different. It is a thriller, but it's a very
Hmm.
differently approached thriller from my end. You know,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
because it has also been an endeavor of mine that with every book I should also rediscover or discover something and not repeat myself, even if it's about telling a thriller story. But I would
Hmm.
love to say it in a different way. And I must thank my readers. They have always supported me whenever I've tried to experiment with the narrative and stuff, which doesn't often happens in Indian commercial fiction genre or the
Hmm.
zone basically. So that
Hmm.
thriller is done. That thriller is done, and I'm immediately jumping into another book of mine because
Oh.
what I have understood of myself is that. I don't have a story in my mind, I'm my most vulnerable. I feel weak. I feel defeated. I feel lost. I don't know what to do
Okay.
with life. So for me, to remain, good and healthy, it's very important for me to be in the middle of a story. So I've
Okay.
jumped immediately to that, and I'm
Hmm.
working on a couple of web series. So season 2
Okay.
of Hello Mini, which is based on the Stranger trilogy, that
Uh,
2 and 3 are going to happen together. So that scripting is on. And
okay.
I finished a web series for Old Balaji, so that shoot will start sometime soon.
Is that
And
based
I
on your
am
book or it's an
no,
original?
so that's a second season of the one that was based on my book, but it's an original
Okay.
idea
Okay.
now.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay.
I'm
Hmm.
also working on an Amazon Prime web series. So that screenplay that I'm doing screenplay, story and
Oh,
screenplay.
lovely. Okay.
So that's going on, and couple of very um, amateur stage film scripts developments are
Hmm.
going on. So that's about it.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay. So, do you think your writing was what gave you the platform to enter the world of script writing? Do you think that was a solid foundation?
I won't say it was a solid foundation because
Hmm.
what I realized, and to my shock, I realized that when I came down from
Okay.
Kolkata to Mumbai and joined so I started from television, the screenwriting and all. I
Hmm.
realized people don't read here. People just don't read
Yeah.
here, and people have no idea about books. I mean, they know what books are, and novels are, but
But they don't
they're
read. Yeah.
like, yeah, they don't read very like I think 1.5% of the entire industry reads. I think properly,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they just don't read. They don't have any idea about the publishing industry at all. How does it
Okay.
work? What, because obviously the publication industry is majorly in Delhi, and the
Right.
entertainment industry is in Mumbai. So there's not a direct link to them, but they don't have idea. In fact, even the publishing industry doesn't have idea how the film industry works. So they
Hmm.
are kind of. I don't think that's the case in the West because they seem like mutually exclusive of each other completely. So
Right.
that was a shock because when I told people that when I came down here, my first two books had released. So when I told
Hmm.
people that I'm a novelist and I write write novels for a living, and
Hmm.
they were giving me those looks. Well, how is it possible in India? How can you write novels to live your sustain your life? And
Yeah.
that happened, and then I slowly seeped in. But I don't think writing novels helped that much because I started with the television industry, and television industry, I dare say, has a different syntax protocol altogether. I
Okay.
mean, if you, it's a different school. Like it's almost like if you stick to that school for long, I don't think you'll
Hmm.
be able to come back because I used to find it very difficult, in the daytime writing TV scripts, and at the night when I sat down to
Hmm.
write my novels, I realized that I
Right.
was losing my instinctive the way I approached when I wrote a novel, and it all became
Right.
very soapy and all those things. So I got
Yes.
scared, and that's why I left TV midway. And thankfully
Hmm.
by that time the web had come in, so there's
Right.
more more nuanced writing and more observational writing is appreciated, which is also
Hmm.
my kind of writing. So that kind of saved
Hmm.
the day for me, for sure, for sure.
Right. But how many soaps did you work on? And were they very regressive, or what is the kind of work you did in
Uh,
TV?
yeah, see, the thing is, regressive is a very subjective term, is what I've understood in TV. For me, the entire television
Okay.
industry is regressive that way, content-wise. But that's a
Okay.
subjective view,
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
depends,
absolutely.
depends how much progressive you are in your mind to
Hmm.
label something as regressive,
Correct.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so television, I did, I developed a lot of soaps. In fact,
Hmm.
I did a lot of episodes of Savdhan India. I did, I have to, think back now because it was like 5, 6 years back. And
Okay.
did some, there's a concept called broad story
Hmm.
for television. So I wrote that. I created characters for a lot of shows that came on Sony, some on Star Plus and
Hmm.
everything. But
Hmm.
what I realized was, apart from money, there was no takeaway for me. As a person, as a
Okay.
creative person, to add value to
Hmm.
what I'm learning.
Hmm.
And though there was amazing money, I mean, television is amazing money for, I dare say, mediocre work.
Okay.
But there was no takeaway creatively. I was not growing.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you want to grow.
Hmm.
Also, I mean, money is important, obviously, but you need
Hmm.
to grow as a person, storytelling wise.
Hmm.
Your perspective wise, that was not happening, and that's why I was very
Right.
unhappy and a little frustrated also till the web thing came in, And I thought
Right.
it's a slightly more open zone than television, especially.
Right.
And I also realized, writing television is a very special, requires a very special skill set. You cannot write television and go back home and write the kind of novels that I do, because there's a very vast difference approach-wise, ideology-wise, world-wise. So that is very difficult. So eventually I left television. I just could not, kind of gel with it. I could never find myself in sync with it, actually.
So now that you've been, working on the web series and the series or the shows for the OTT platforms, do you think
Right.
you found your space, you found your niche?
I would say, what I understood is, until creatively the control is in your hands. If the show is your vision, only then I think you can get your niche. Otherwise, script writing is it's a team effort for sure, but within that team, you need to sometimes bow down to others' thoughts also, even if you don't agree with them. Because obviously, I mean, you cannot just, you have to reach somewhere as a consensus. So until that happens, so my constant endeavor is now to get to shows where I can take creative control, because otherwise it's very difficult to, and that's why perhaps maybe film writing is a notch higher than web writing, where there is a little bit more control than a web or a television writing, so I would say until that I taste that creative control, I won't be able to say whether I found my niche or not, but I sure enjoy writing for web more than I enjoy writing for television.
Right, but though I know that you have writers' rooms and all that in the web
Yeah,
space, and that's how they
yeah,
work,
yeah.
right? Typically, and whereas it's not like that in films, but in films, because of the kind of investments, right, and the stars or the actors they get on board, doesn't that also become there's a lot of compromising there? Whereas here, at least creatively, you have more freedom.
No, it's everywhere, because if there are stars in films, there are platforms here. If if a star doesn't want to say a particular line and you have to change it, then there is platforms working over you. There is showrunner. There's something. It has to go with their vision. If they don't think, because the final call has to be theirs, and you have to submit to it. The fact that and eventually I also believe that whichever creative pursuit you are doing, regardless of the medium, there has to be one person who calls the shot. It cannot be 3-4 people calling the shot. One person has to, call and own it up, basically. So that way, it depends really from project to project. Where in some projects I've had amazing creative liberties. In some I have had no creative liberties. So I've just, I did what I was expected to do, and I moved off. So it depends on project to project and the kind of people you're working with also. Because so much about the energies, the collision of energies, the kind of energies that produce. Because I believe that creative friction can happen anywhere, but there is a certain kind of friction. There is a certain kind of friction which will yield better results, and there's a certain kind of friction which will yield bad results. So you have to understand where, what kind of energies you're working on, and if you think that the friction is not yielding good results, then you should, either pack your bags up from that space, or at least you submit to one person's vision and just, be convinced that perhaps he knows better than you, he or she knows better than you, and you just submit.
Right. So you're very comfortable in English and in Hindi, is it?
Yeah, because so Hindi has been my second language, because I went to Lucknow, and you know how Bengali's Hindi normally is. So I can at least boast that mine is a slightly better than the normal Bong Hindi. But I can write in Hindi. I can read Hindi fluently. I read a lot of Hindi novels also. But unfortunately, what that did was the fact that it took me away from Bangla. So I can't read Bangla very fluently. I can read it, but I take my time and read it. So that took me away from my own mother tongue, really, which is not a great thing, but that's how it is,
Okay. So a lot of people are commenting about your Forever series, which they seem to have loved, and also the, is that the
Thank you.
same as the Stranger trilogy? It's not,
No,
right?
no. So the Stranger trilogy is a set of 3 books. Forever is a set of 2 books.
Okay. Okay. So when do you decide that, you will do a 2 books part, or like a 3 book, a series? How does that happen in your work process?
It actually, when I did the Stranger trilogy, it was more of thing that I understood that people who read commercial fiction in India, they have some kind of aversion towards fat and thick books, So I
Yeah.
thought if I write one
They
thick
check the
novel,
pages. It's
well,
like, oh my
exactly.
God, it's
Yeah.
500 pages.
Yeah, and, and
Yeah.
and and thick books are great for airport looks, but they will not
Yeah.
read it. They will just carry it around to, show off their intellectual thing, I guess. But they will
Yeah.
never read it completely. So I thought might as well do one thing that I splice it up into three books and present it in the form of a trilogy, which was not very much in vogue at that time. But
Yeah.
luckily, it struck gold and it made who I am today as a novelist. But when it came to Forever, also I thought here was a book, here was a story which I could have told in one book also. But again, that I thought though if I divided into two books, I would be able to explore few things more without adding into the thickness of the book, and hence I decided. Right now, I've not planned any series yet, book series yet, but you never know when I hit upon an idea which I think can be stretched across two or three books or four books, and then probably decide accordingly. Like for example, the Stranger trilogy became such a big hit that now I'm supposed to come out with a fourth book.
Oh, really?
And it was never part of my deal at all. For me, my story was over. But
Okay.
the kind of love and affection I got from my readers and the kind of
Yeah.
dejection they felt after reading the end of the Stranger trilogy, I thought, okay, I owe it to my readers that I bring on the fourth book. So I'm very
Okay.
much on target. But unfortunately, it was supposed to come out next year. But unfortunately, because of this lockdown, a lot of the entire book list has been pushed.
Okay.
But it will come out. I'm on it. I'm on it completely. So it really depends, really. I mean, there's no one set rule how to decide, at least for me, how to decide whether it will be a series or something else.
Okay. You also did a book of short stories?
Yeah, so that's called Cheaters, which I again wanted to. So what happens to me is in between I get these because I believe there are lot many author personalities within me who wants to write short stories, who wants to experiment a little bit of writing style, narrative wise. But as you know, with commercial fiction, what happens is that when you have a set pattern, when you develop your own style, which every author wants to. The readers want to read that only. I mean, that happened with J.K. Rowling also. But the moment she went
Yes.
out of the Harry Potter gamut,
Yeah.
and she had to just imagine J.K. Rowling had to choose a different name to come back, which tells you how much readers are, hold on to that one thing, and not to
Yeah.
blame them. Obviously, you want them to hold on to your stuff. So I had this. Idea of cheaters, basically infidelity in today's time. And I thought I had 9 stories in mind, and when I pitched it to my publisher, they liked it, and we thought we might as well experiment with it. Thankfully, it worked. A lot of people gave me good feedback and stuff, and it clicked the stories were mature. Obviously, we're talking about infidelity. We cannot,
Yeah.
let 16-year-olds read it. They
Yeah.
need to believe in love more at that age, at the age in life. So,
Yeah.
so it had a mature audience in my mind, but luckily it worked. I got a lot of, secret mails. I would say secret because openly very few people acknowledge they loved reading Cheaters. But in the
Okay.
mails, you know how the stigma is. The moment you say that you enjoyed a book called Cheaters, then there's there's something wrong with you or something. But they keep DMing me and emailing me about the particular story that they liked and about all they didn't. So luckily it worked. It worked.
Okay, okay. So you've got a book, you've just completed a book, you're working
Yeah.
on another book, Strangers, the fourth book is going to come out. Um, uh, are you, given that you're such a prolific writer, you're working on web series, do you eventually want to make a film?
Oh yeah, oh yes. I mean, I eventually, I actually came down to Mumbai because I wanted to eventually get into visual storytelling, which is direction.
Right.
And I didn't want to do it, and still I don't want to do it because I can, assemble the resources to do it. I want to do it when I think I'm ready. I very strongly believe that an artist needs to connect to a voice inside to, express. Till I get that voice of, what I want to say through my films or the films that I would end up directing, I don't want to jump into it. So right now
Okay.
I'm kind of learning. I'm watching videos, and there's so many aspects of filmmaking which are so exciting. So I'm a big movie buff. So I have my own mental reviews and analysis going on and stuff. And so eventually, I really want to make films, tell visual stories according to my cognizance. I definitely want to do that.
So who are some of your favorite filmmakers or storytellers, if we can call them that?
Again, a very, very difficult question to answer because when you're a big movie buff, but I'll tell you the names that immediately, comes to my mind. Obviously, being a Bengali, you cannot move away from the shade of Satyajit Ray. It's like all-time greats, all-time favorite. Satyajit Ray, Tapan Sinha, Mridal Dutt, Mrinal Sen, and from the Bengali thing. With Hindi, I used to love the movies that Gulzar Saab directed. I loved Rishikesh Mukherjee's films. I loved all those parallel Shyam Babu's films and all. And internationally, I would say Billy Wilder and Hitchcock and Kubrick. These are the big influences in my not only filmmaking but overall storytelling capacity. So these are the filmmakers whom I have followed, and almost all their works almost have by-hearted the kind of films that they have made. So these are the few. So the few that immediately comes to my mind right now.
Okay, and what about some of the shows you've liked on OTT platforms so far? Not your own, other than that.
No, of course. I would say, see, one thing, I don't know, it's a peculiar thing with me. I'm not much into series. I don't know why.
Okay.
I just either lose patience. Even the best of series, I've lost patience. I've not watched. I mean, if I name them, people will kill me that how can you just not watch that series completely? But I'm very guilty of, losing interest by middle of the series, or maybe I'm just a restless person. I watch a lot of films. I watch world cinema, everything. I watch everything as long as it's in a movie mode. But I enjoyed of late in Indian thing. I enjoyed watching Patal Lok. I enjoyed watching Asur on Voot, which I thought started well but didn't end well. Then there were these are the two that's coming to my mind right now. I enjoyed even Arya also on Hotstar. It was pretty good.
You watched Arya?
Yeah, pretty good. Like there were loopholes because when you watch it as a writer, you know where it what they're doing and why they're doing. All those will come to you, but overall, I liked it. I enjoyed it kind of. At least I finished it.
But that's a problem, right? You're constantly analyzing when you're watching the show rather than experiencing it as an audience member, right?
It is. Not only analyzing, sometimes you are also testing that if I was the writer of this, I would have done this to this character. And then you're like, oh no, you should have done this. That would have been more interesting. So all these things, keep going in your mind. And the moment, some character is not focused, why exactly they're not focusing on the character, because you would have done that if you were writing that. So those things go on. I kind of enjoy it at times, but I mean, you cannot, like if a director watches something, he will see it from the director's lens, so I think when you're a writer or a storyteller, you watch it from that lens. So yeah, I mean, you cannot help those things.
Okay, so what is the next series of yours that's coming out?
Next, I'm not sure which one, because every series of mine that I'm working on is either getting scripted right now or going, but I think it will be Hello Mini season 2 mostly.
Okay, will it come out this year?
I'm not sure again, because it depends when the shoot begins, because with all those rules and regulations, I don't know if the shoot begins. If it begins, then either the end of this year or maybe early next year. I'm not sure, but I think that will be the next one.
Okay, so meanwhile, during the pandemic, you're busy writing, but what else do you do, like doing as a person?
It's very I like to eat, but I could not order. So I could not order food because I was scared, obviously, for obvious reasons. So sometimes I ended up making something for myself, but I'm missing all my favorite things, a big time. Like I think the first thing I'm gonna do is indulge in some kind of foodgasm the moment the lockdown completely and properly ends. And though places are open, I've heard that a lot of my friends are ordering food from outside also, but till now I have not had the guts to order from outside. It's psychological also, I guess. At times. So I've not ordered food from outside yet. But apart from that, I'm reading a lot. I'm especially after finishing a book, is when I'm writing a book, I don't read, because then suddenly I feel like I'm getting influenced by the author's book that I'm reading. It's a weird kind of a thing. So I don't read when I'm writing a book, but right now I have, reading, and I'm kind of a peculiar reader because I read 5, 6 books together. Like, so I keep jumping from one book to another book to another book.
There are people who do that. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't finish one book, but this time I told myself I'll finish books and then go to the next book. So right now I think I'm reading 5 thrillers and 2 biographies and a couple of translations and poetry books. It's all there. It depends on the mood, whichever. I think I'll just continue this and that. So I'm reading, I'm watching movies, and I'm trying to introspect, because I think as artists and storytellers, I think lockdown has been a great time for me to just pause the movement, because we were all and Mumbai being a fast city, we were constantly living in a different kind of a loop. And I think I've done a lot of introspection, which is very important for an artist. I think it adds on to your overall evolution as a person. So that has been the thing. That has been the thing. Yeah.
Okay. There was something else I read, that you also have a pen name and you write under a pen name, right? Somewhere.
So, I did release a book on Wattpad by the pen name of Elizabeth Ellie. And I just did that because I just wanted to see because I thought people outside India are a little prejudiced about Indian writers. So I just wanted to change the name. I didn't want to give them a feeling that an Indian writer has written it and stuff. I just wanted to experiment a little bit. And I wanted to, because that story, Do You Love Me Enough, narrative wise, is slightly different than what I usually would have written if I would have written the way my paperbacks, are written. So just as an experiment, I did it. I don't know whether I'll continue writing under that name or not, but it was just an experiment which I just wanted to do.
So how was that received? I mean, was that...
it was received well. I got a lot of I think 40,000 reads I got, and a lot of messages and everything. People liked it. Whoever finished the book, they liked it. I got messages from international audience also. So which was why I was experimenting it. So overall, it worked well. But I don't know whether I'll continue writing under that name or not. Though some of them told me that my name anyway sounds very Russian, so I could have used my name only, but which I think they have a point, but I'm not sure whether I'll use the pen name or not.
Okay, a lot of your fans are asking you about your personal life,
which I don't talk about. They're asking because I've very deliberately, very intentionally, I have kept my personal life away always from the beginning. I was very clear about it. And I was very clear because I believe that, because books, so when I was a reader, like I'm still a reader, but when I used to read and, idolize the authors that I used to like and love, I thought there are some things which should remain myth. The more I know about people that I idolize or like, the less interested I would be. So that's what I believe in. So from the first day itself, I was like, and anyway, I write thrillers, so it's interesting to remain a little mysterious.
Mysterious,
and not, yeah. And I'm a Scorpio, so I think that's a zodiac trait as well, to keep myself mysterious and let people interpret me through my works and not know me properly. And I don't know, I mean, when someone tries to know me, it scares me a little bit. I don't know why. So
are you afraid they're going to stalk you or something?
I don't know. Stalk they anyway do. I think I get
stalked really?
for sure. Yeah. Because I wrote a book after being inspired by a stalker. So the book was Black Suits You, and there was this female stalker who stalked the nuts out of me completely. So, but the silver lining was that I got a book. I got a book idea out of it.
Okay, but that's still scary, right? I mean,
it is very scary. It is very scary because these days, so much of information is out there in the cyber world, and not only for me, someone whose work is in the public domain, but for anybody in general. So we unknowingly, give so much of our information into the public domain that it's scary how much someone who does not know you at all actually can know about you. It's very scary.
That's true.
And how easily they can do it actually.
Somebody's asking, actually a couple of people are asking about who is the R in the last page of the book or something.
So basically, I have, from first book, I have been addressing someone in my life as R in all my acknowledgements. I think to answer that question, I would say she is a constant in my life, from
Okay.
which I draw life inspiration probably. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to reveal much. If I had to reveal, I would have revealed her name any which ways.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, guys,
why
so
would
he
I?
doesn't want to talk about R, but it's a she, and she's a constant
Yeah,
in his life. So you
yeah,
can
yeah,
figure out the rest.
yeah. I
Okay.
think some things are very personal, right? So
Yeah, that's fine. One
yeah,
of the questions which I saw was,
yeah.
you don't go to lit fests. You don't attend lit
Uh,
fests.
I do attend Litfest. So what happened was, I'll tell you. Now this is again, I don't know, I
Yeah.
will be shot for this or not, but so there was a time, I would say 4 5 years back, when I used to go to Litfest right, left, center, and then I
Okay.
realized that there was a pattern to the Litfest. It
Okay.
was, and the pattern was, it was almost the same topics, the same things we are talking about. Only the
Same
people in
people.
front were changing. Yeah, I mean, people by
Yeah.
my side and the panels were the same, but the people in front of me changed, and I realized there was no take away for me as a person from a lit fest. And
Okay.
then I realized that I was working in Mumbai, and to leave
Hmm.
the work, go and attend a
Go.
session, if it gives me something personally, as in some value addition, I would love to. And not
Hmm.
all lit fests are bad also. There are some really
Right.
good sessions happening, but they
Yeah.
are very sparse and very spaced out. So
Hmm.
I've become very choosy over that. I get a lot
Hmm.
of college invitations, I get a lot of speaker invitations and stuff.
Hmm.
But I think I'm one of those rare breed who doesn't go any, who just maybe it's got something to do with my
You
reclusive
like
nature,
staying at
perhaps.
home. Yeah.
Yeah, more than staying at home, I think I don't like crowds. As in, I don't like to
Okay.
stand and in front of a screen. I don't like that limelight. I would rather have my book get the spotlight rather than me getting the spotlight. So maybe that's a
Hmm.
thing. I don't like to lecture people. Go to school and colleges and tell them, I did this, I dropped out, I was this, I fought mental health and stuff. I think everyone has their
Yeah.
own life and journey, and they will get
Right.
inspired from wherever they have to get inspired by. I
Hmm.
don't want to thrust my ideas of life onto someone. This was my
Right.
interpretation of life. You go ahead. It's a journey. It's an adventure. You go ahead and make your own mistakes and learn your own lessons.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a very good thought actually, because everybody has different experiences, and they must
yeah,
have those different experiences to eventually become who they are, or
yeah,
So
exactly, and that adds to their
yeah, so
exclusivity.
yeah, absolutely. So my last question to you: do you want to say
Yeah.
anything to your fans, Novoneel? Because a lot of them, have been sending
Yeah.
you questions, sending you love on this chat. Do you want to say anything to
All I
them?
want to say, all I want to tell them is I love you all. Thank you so much for all the love and support that you've been giving me through years now, like almost a decade, more than a decade. And every time I select a story to tell you, I take it personally that I want to blow your mind off. Not always it's possible with every story, because every story is different and every story cannot appeal to everyone. But I really work hard so that you guys have a great time while reading it. And I have finished a book, and let's see when it comes out. I'm really trying hard that it comes out this year only. But let's see. I mean, it all depends on how the situation around us all, fares up. But I love you all, and I just keep reading and keep supporting people, who sell books, who write books, who have to do something to do with book industry, because somewhere it's also dying, and we need to support. And in India, I know, book reading is a kind of a luxurious thing. It's not the first thing that we do, but I would still say, buy books, don't lend them, don't borrow books as much as possible. If you are a college student, I can still understand. But
Yeah.
otherwise, buy books, read them, and stay safe. Stay safe. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Novoneel, for chatting
Thank
with
you,
me.
Radha. It
Wishing you
was
the
wonderful.
wishing you the very best for your web series, and I'll be keeping in touch with you anyway. So
Yeah,
looking
sure.
forward to more work from
Thank
you,
you.
good work from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so
It was
much.
lovely.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.